same section, same exam, with a motor being sound insulated. And so you can see here, once again, of course, they have that tempting reveal answer thing that you want to avoid. So steer clear of that, of course. You want to actually do your own analysis and thought process. All right, so let's go on to number 17. I'll give you a moment to just read this question over, and then we can talk about it. Lots of conditionals here. So yeah, so I see one student saying, I diagram this because of conditional reasoning. Exactly, yeah, I would certainly do the same here. I think there's a lot going on in this one. We have lots of conditional language. We have, of course, multiple ifs. We have if once again. They even have the then to help us there as well. And then we have a concrete statement of none. But things link together. We have sound insulated, then quiet enough, then used in institutional settings. And these motors manufactured by EM are not quiet enough. So lots of conditionals. I would diagram this. And of course, I can walk through this question, and I will eventually, but since the agenda is analyzing student review, the student kind of just gave a brief summary of each answer choice in particular. But I think there is something to be gained by diagramming and doing that level of analysis. And so I'm going to, on the side here, just walk through how I might diagram this, and then we can see how we derive the correct answer, just to go into a bit more depth. I think it's valuable. So if a motor is sound insulated, so if sound insulated, and you could do SI if you want, then quiet enough home appliances, we could say. Then the next part starts off with if a motor is quiet enough to use in home appliances. So we can just right away link that on to what we already have here. Quiet enough home appliances. Then the next step is, of course, institutional settings. Then it can be used in institutional settings. And you could do IS if you wanted to here. Then none of the motors manufactured by EM are quiet enough to use in home appliances. So they're essentially negating this variable in particular and giving it to us as a concrete statement. So on the side, we can write not quiet enough home appliances. And so what this does, we take this and we see where does it fit, where does it relate to the conditional chain previously? Well, we have the positive version of that here in the middle. So this activates the contrapositive of part of this chain. And as I'll just walk through the contrapositive here. Anyone want to give me what is the contrapositive of this three-part conditional? What would that look like? So contrapositive is a logically equivalent statement to the original where we reverse the ordering of the variables around the arrows and we negate them all. So yeah, excellent. So we get not IS, then not quiet enough home appliances, then not sound insulated. So not institutional setting, then not quiet enough for home appliances, then not sound insulated. And then we see that this given variable, not quiet enough home appliances, goes right here in the middle. So it tells us nothing about not sound insulated, but it does allow us to infer, not a non-institutional setting, but it does allow us to infer not sound insulated. That does logically follow here. Just to make this a little bit more abstract as an example, it says if we had A requires B requires C, then we were told not B as a concrete variable, not B, of course, being the same as not quite enough home appliances. And then we take from that, well, we should take the contrapositive of the big chain to allow us to see what not B might allow us to derive. So not C requires not B requires not A. Then we can see that the logical inference is not A. That's what we can infer here. And in this case, our not A is the not sound insulated. And we have an answer choice that matches not sound insulated, which is B. None of the motors are sound insulated, and the student said as well, this sounds 100% accurate, which is, so the student got it right. But I think that maybe if this is a question that gives you trouble, this sort of walkthrough that I'm doing on the right side of the screen here is I think really important, just to see, well, it's 100% accurate, it sounds good, but why? Why does it sound accurate? Because of course, they're very good at making tempting answer choices that are wrong, but sound nice. So I think it's really important to know exactly why. And maybe you did, but I'd love to see in your future review for the student, actually show us why you think it's accurate and why you think other things are not accurate. We could walk through some of the wrong answers here just to see. A, eliminate because it's not necessarily true. Let's look at A. If a motor can be used in institutional settings, then it is sound insulated. How does that relate to our diagram here? We have, of course, institutional setting. We have sound insulated, but A has them in the wrong order. It's a mistaken reversal. So yes, it's not necessarily true, but not necessarily true because it is the reversal of what we have inferred from the chain. And so maybe it is, maybe it isn't, we have no idea. But I think that this could be a tempting wrong answer because it relates both of those variables to each other simply in the wrong order. Then looking at C, the student eliminate those because this choice, because it said at least and some. So yeah, so C says at least some. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that given the strong language throughout this stimulus, it's if, then, if, then, if, then. Given that, anything that we can infer is likely to be strong as well, just as choice B was, saying none. None are sound insulated. So like the negation of a variable. We want concrete, firm language in a correct answer because that's what the stimulus has here. So I think that that's a good reason to eliminate C. So A and C are both out. Looking at D, saying not necessarily true. D is saying if quiet enough, then sound insulated. Once again, this is a mistaken reversal of what we have on the chain. We have A requires B, and D is saying B requires A, which of course is mistaken reversal, not correct, so D is out. Then looking at E, similar to B, I didn't pick E because it's not true that EM can't be used in institutional settings. Yeah, so of course B was correct. So I'm not sure about maybe this was a typo or mistake here, but I didn't pick E because it's not true that EM can't be used in institutional settings. Well, of course, what we do have here is that not quite enough means it's not sound insulated, as B says. It's not sound insulated because we know it's not quite enough. But to say not quite enough means not institutional settings, that's going backwards on the arrow. Not quite enough does not require not IS. Not quite enough requires sound insulated. So we can eliminate E for that reason. Just a quick note here. I think that this whole IS versus SI thing could get really confusing. I don't think that's accidental. They're counting on people to diagram IS versus SI and they get mixed up. And so that is part of the benefit to occasionally writing out the full words as I've done here. So great job on this. I just encourage the student to write things out a bit more thoroughly in their analysis to actually show the diagrams they're doing, if they're doing diagrams, and say why, and also look at why things might be tempting. Like if I were actually to write out my full explanations for this as I'm speaking here, I would actually be looking at, well, what makes a choice like E tempting? What makes a choice like A tempting? So that we can actually see what might lead someone to choose the wrong answer. And so that, because of course you might fall for that particular trap in the future and you want to get used to the sorts of traps that LSAC lays for us. So great job there.